Okay, hi everybody. So today we're going to be talking about meninges. And basically what meninges are protective coverings that go around your brain and your spinal cord. So in the meninges, there's actually three layers to the meninges. And the first one is called the Duramata. And like it says here, that's known as the tough mother. And that is the thickest outer layer. The next layer is going to be called the Arachnoid mata. And it's the spidery layer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But then we have the Piamata. And the Piamata is the thinnest inner layer, and it's known as the delicate mother. Now, if you notice, I wrote here that we have the subarachnoid space. And the subarachnoid space is the space between the arachnoid and the Piamata. And in this space, you have something called cerebrospinal fluid, which we're going to abbreviate as CSF. Cerebrospinal fluid is responsible for providing nourishment and lubrication to the meninges here. So let's go ahead and get started. And what I'm going to do is I am going to draw basically a picture of the brain, okay? And it's going to look like this here. And then coming out of the brain, you have something called the pituitary gland, which we'll talk about this in a minute. So this is the big part of my brain, and we call this the cerebrum. Now, hanging like a bell off the back of the cerebrum is something called the cerebellum. And technically I should draw that as if it's almost attached to the cerebrum, but because we're going to be writing in here, I'm going to have it separated, and I'm going to have my cerebellum down here. Now I also have, coming off the cerebrum, I'm going to have my brainstem right here. Okay, so and again, this is the cerebellum right there, and then this is my brainstem. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. And like we just said, the first layer is called the Piamata, the thinnest inner layer. So the Piamata is going to come right across the brain right here. It's going to go around the pituitary gland. And in your brain, you have little folds called sulci, and the Piamata is actually going to bend and go into the sulci. Alright, so it's going to come around this way, around my cerebellum, and then it goes down along the brainstem and along the spinal cord. So I know I'm leaving little bits of space right here, but for the most part, this is basically flush right against that. So the other thing your Piamata has is they have some blood vessels that come off, and like I said, it has some foldings that are going to go into the brain also. So that's our Piamata right there. So let me write this right here to give you an idea. This is the Piamata. My thinnest inner layer is the Piamata. The next layer we call the arachnoid. So I'm going to go like this. All right, and this is my arachnoid right here. So this is the arachnoid. And then if you notice, I have a space between my arachnoid and my Piamata, and that's the subarachnoid space that I was talking about. So you have extensions coming off the arachnoid. They're called Trabeculae. And what the Trabeculae do is they attach the arachnoid onto the Piamata. So I'm going to go like this. And this is where they come up with the name spidery for the arachnoid. It's the fact that you have these Trabeculae that attach onto here. So I'm going to leave some space here because I want to write in here. And so they say that it looks kind of like a spider's web. All right, and so now, like we said a minute ago, inside of my subarachnoid, if you notice the space in here, this is going to be my subarachnoid space where you see the Trabeculae. That's the subarachnoid space. This is the part that's going to contain my cerebrospinal fluid. So I don't know if I can write all this in here. Subarachnoid space. Okay, So that's the subarachnoid space, subarachnoid. All right, so there's my subarachnoid space. Now, the next thing we have is we have something called the subdural space. So the subdural space, this is going to be under my Duramata, okay? It's going to be under my Duramata. So now I have, I'll go like this. And this is going to be called, this brown line, this is going to be called my inner Duramata. Okay? So this is my inner Duramata. Alright? And that's going to be this right here. Alright, so we have the subdural space in there. The subdural space sometimes contains lymph fluid. Alright, and then after that, we are going to have our dural sinus. It's the dural sinus. The dural sinus is also known as the venous sinus. And that's because it contains veins. Now, I don't have it here. I'll do this when I get to the video on cerebrospinal fluid. But what's actually going to happen is my arachnoid is going to have something called an arachnoid granulation that's going to stick into this dural sinus. The dural sinus is full of veins, and what happens is cerebrospinal fluid will come from the subarachnoid space through the arachnoid granulation into those veins. But like I said, we're going to cover that in another video. Going around the outside of this here, now, I am going to have my outer Duramata. So I'm going to go up like this, and around like this. And this is my outer Duramata now. So here's my outer Duramata. And now here's the thing, is I have the outer Duramata and I have the inner Duramata. So these two together will make up the Duramata. So if I go right here, this would be my Duramata. All right? So those two together make up the Duramata. So let's take a look at a few things here. First of all, if we look, you'll notice that we have the meninges going in between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. See, and then this area in here. So this area in here, we have that sticking in. Now in actuality, this is kind of C-shaped. And again, my cerebellum is not separated really from this, so it doesn't go in that far. But what's going to happen, or what this is called right here, is this part right here is called Tentorium cerebelli. Okay, and that's the part that's between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. If you also notice, on this here is my cerebellum, and I actually have meninges coming around. Now, in the back of my cerebellum, I actually have a little notch that the meninges slide into. Okay, so it'd be like this. This is my cerebellum, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull this out, I'm going to turn that towards you, and imagine where this black tape is. That's the notch, or that's where the notch would be on the cerebellum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, turn it like that, and then what I would do is draw it like this, and then I'm just going to use this right here to draw that little notch that would be there. And again, my meninges would actually fold and go into there. This, the meninges that go into there, will be called the Falx Cerebri. Okay, so this is my Falx Cerebri right here. And again, that's where the meninges fold and go into there. Okay, so I have my Tentorium cerebelli here. I have my Falx Cerebri going in here. Now, if you notice what we said here is where the pituitary gland is, you can notice the meninges go around the pituitary gland. Where the meninges go around the pituitary gland is called the diaphragma cellae. So this right here, where the meninges go around, the pituitary is the diaphragma sella, okay? And that's where it's going to go around in there. Now there's one last thing, is we are looking at this, looking this way, okay? What I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and we're going to turn this way, just like you see me now. And then imagine you took the skull off the top of my head. And what would happen is you'd be able to see into my brain. Well, what happens when you look at the brain is the brain is actually made up of two hemispheres. So again, this is looking from the top down. Imagine a bird flying overhead and it's able to look inside your brain. What you have right here is an opening called the longitudinal fissure. The longitudinal fissure is an opening between the right and left hemisphere of the brain. So I'm just going to write this in here like this. This would be my longitudinal fissure right here. Okay? Now, imagine now what I do is I cut this right here, and then I remove part of this and show it to you. So imagine I cut this off here, so now I just have this back part here, or I could just take the front, and I turn it so you're looking at it now like this. So it was like this, now we're going to turn it so you're looking like this. And it would look something like this. This would be my longitudinal fissure, and then you got some indentations on the side of your brain, and then we got this here. All right, and this would be my longitudinal fissure right there. So now, I'm not going to draw all the layers of the meninges here, but what I am going to do is I'm just going to have that represented by this green pen. So pretend like this green marker represents all these layers. And I'm not going to draw it all the way around the brain, but it would come into the longitudinal fissure. All right? And I would have all the meninges coming into this portion here of the longitudinal fissure. So where the meninges are here in this longitudinal fissure, we call that the Falx Cerebri. Okay? And that's going to be where the meninges are in the longitudinal fissure. Now you got to realize the longitudinal fissure actually goes all along here. So I'm going to have this membrane going all along where you see the meninges here. It's not just like it sticks down and that's it. But as you see with my meninges here, it goes the whole length of the brain. So that's it for the meninges. Just really quick, you can see we have the Falx Cerebri, we have the Falx Cerebri, we have the Tentorium Cerebellum, which kind of slides right in there, it's C-shaped, the diaphragma celli, and then we had our different layers and spaces. So that's it for the meninges. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to watch some more of my videos. And thank you very much for watching.